right and wrong. Pupils from many parts of Japan came to Banki, a renowned Zen master, to learn Zen. During one of these gatherings, a pupil was caught stealing from other pupils' belongings. The matter was reported to the master, but Banki did not utter a single word. A few days later, the pupil was caught stealing again. Angry pupils gathered around the master and said, "Master, we have caught this man stealing from us again, but this time we want you to expel him from the temple. If you don't expel him, the rest of the students will leave the temple right away." Master thought for a moment and said, "All you students can differentiate between right and wrong, but this young man cannot. You all will find another school if you like. Therefore, this man needs my help more than anybody. I am going to keep him even if the rest of you leave." A torrent of tears cleansed the face of the pupil who had stolen. All desire to steal had vanished. The others had learned a valuable lesson. Mokusans' hand. Mokusan Hiki was a Zen master who lived in the province of Tamba. One of his disciples came to him and said, "Master, my wife is too reckless with money. She keeps spending a lot and never listens to me." Mokusan visited the disciple's wife and showed her his clenched fist before her face. The disciple's wife got furious and asked, "What do you mean by this?" Mokusan asked, "Suppose my fist were always like that. What would you call it?" "Deformed," replied the woman. Mokusan then opened his hand flat in her face and asked, "Suppose my hand was always like this. What then?" "Another kind of deformity," said the woman. Mokusan gently replies, "If you understand that much, you are a good wife." After this visit, the wife helped her husband spend and save money as well. Moving to a new town. Two monks were walking down the streets of a town with a Zen master. The first monk says, "Master, I am thinking of moving to this town. What's it like?" The Zen master quickly asks, "Tell me, young man, what was your old town like?" The first monk responds, "It was dreadful. Everyone was hateful. I hated it." The Zen master says, "Oh, this town is very much the same. I don't think you should move here." The second monk hears this and says, "Oh, I am thinking of moving to this town too. Is it really that bad here, master?" The Zen master asks, What was your old town like? The second monk responds, it was wonderful. Everyone was friendly and I was happy. I am just interested in the change now. The Zen master says, this town is very much the same. I think you will like it here. Both monks were surprised. They had learned a valuable lesson.
The first principle. One can see the words, the first principle, beautifully carved on the gates of Obaku Temple. Those who appreciate calligraphy always admire them as being a masterpiece. They were drawn by Master Kusin some 200 years ago. When the master drew them, he did so on paper, from which workmen made the larger carvings in wood. As Kusin sketched the letters, his close friend, Kaokin never failed to criticize his work. That is not good, he told Kusin after the first effort. How is that one? Poor. Worse than before, said Taokin. Kusin patiently wrote one sheet after another, until 84 first principles had accumulated, still without the approval of his friend. Then, when his friend had stepped outside for a few moments, Kusin thought, now is my chance to escape his keen eye. And he wrote hurriedly, with a mind free from distraction. The first principle. A masterpiece. Pronounced his close friend.
The imaginary hook. Once upon a time, a merchant from the rich western lands was on a journey to visit the eastern lands of India. He had to ride on his camel during the hot and sunny day. And as darkness descended upon the desert, he would tie his feisty camel to a metal hook. He would then snore away peacefully under the stars, sure that his camel could not escape in any way. The next morning, his journey would resume. As one particularly hot day gave way to twilight on the horizon, the tired merchant decided to stop for the day. However, there was no decent shelter in sight. To make matters worse, he suddenly realized that he had lost the metal hook to which he used to tether his camel. Just then, a monk passed by. Looking at the haggard merchant, the monk paused and asked, "You look worried. What has happened?" The merchant replied, "I used to tie my camel every night to a metal hook before I went to sleep, so that my camel cannot run away. But I seem to have lost it today. There goes my sleep for the night." The monk smiled and said, "If you used to tether the camel to the metal hook every night, just try going through the same actions of tying the camel to an imaginary hook. It should work for you. Just make sure the camel sees you doing it." The merchant was baffled, but before he could question the monk was gone. With the night darkening and tiredness taking a toll, the merchant decided to heed the monk's advice. He went through the same actions of tying the camel to an imaginary hook and then went into a slightly troubled sleep. The next day, the merchant woke up to sunlight streaming onto his face. He looked at his camel, and lo! There it was, exactly where he had tied it to the imaginary hook. He was baffled to find the camel there. He secretly thanked the monk for his wise advice, and he never had to tie his feisty camel to that metal hook ever again.